morning. It is 6:08 a.m. Saturday morning, February 19th. We're going to look at Tesla this morning. Tesla was down with the rest of the market on Friday, yesterday the 18th. Looks like Tesla closed down $19.37, 2.2%. After hours, down another $4.98 or 0.5%. The NASDAQ was down, looks like 168, down 1.2%, which is not too bad. This is Google Finance. Good website to keep track of pricing as well as any news that you're interested in. Let's take a jump over to the Fear and Greed Index. If you're not familiar with this, it's the CNN Fear and Greed Index. And then down here below, it will explain how they calculate this. It's basically a contrarian indicator. When the indicator gets over to the left-hand side into the fear or extreme fear, that is potentially a good time to get into markets where they are very oversold, and vice versa to the right-hand side, extreme greed. Although markets can continue to rise when they remain in extreme greed, but potentially a good time to scale out or maybe take some profits in your positions or in the market. Just wanted to share that. We are sitting in a little bit of fear, nothing too crazy, but we are in fear, and we have been sitting here for a while now. You can see a month ago we were at 63, but the past week ago and the prior reading we were still in the 30s. So I will leave a link to this down in the video description. Let's take a look at the chart for Tesla on TradingView. So Friday we once again came back down to test the 200-day moving average. 200-day moving average on my chart is the red line with a slight trend to the upside. That is the 200-day. That is a good sign to see that we came down to the 200-day and then started to get pushed back up from there. We closed at 856.98. This was another good sign here, and you can see we rallied for the day after that. The January 28th, we traded below the 200-day, closing above the 200-day. Good sign to see, although we did get kind of pushed back over. We didn't rally too much, but that next day was a very strong rally for Tesla. So I'm going to walk through a couple of different scenarios that could play out here. Right off the bat, I do not like the 21 and 50-day trending down, but that is just the way it is. I do like that we found support for now at the 200-day. So what could happen here moving forward? Well, we could obviously trade down from here. And I have mentioned in the prior Tesla videos that if we trade below this January 28th candle, and that low is $7.92.01, the price of Tesla could drop and drop very fast if we trade below that candle on the 28th. So that could play out. Especially if we close below that, that could spell some trouble for Tesla for at least the short term. Probably get some pretty sharp downward price action. So that is scenario number one. We would like to see the stock rally from where we're at, but if we don't, then that will be what I'm looking for. Is if we start to get close to that low and undercut it, it could be a waterfall event. Scenario number two is we do the waterfall event below that low, but either that day or very soon after, maybe the next day, is we get back above and we close above that candle. If we do that, I will be starting to look at the stock as, okay, maybe that was the bottom and we're going to move higher from here. Although that will probably put us a close below the 200-day, which also would not be good. So that's kind of two scenarios for the downside. Quickly get them out of the way, but as much as you might not want to hear, the stock could continue lower. Let's not argue with the chart and always be prepared for the worst of what could happen. So if you are hoping the stock goes up and it starts to move lower, like I just mentioned, just be careful and perhaps have some kind of an exit plan for this stock. You can always get back in, so don't be fearful that you're going to miss out on some move to the upside. Let's take a little bit of a different approach. Let's assume that this is the bottom for now, and we found support, little double tap, found support here, and now we'll continue to rise. Tesla stock is not going to have to rise too much before we are getting into a long position again. This whole area here is nothing but a basing structure and a consolidation. That's how we're looking at it. If this thing starts to move higher, then we are going to jump on board pretty quick, because once it breaks out of these basing structures, it can blast to the upside. Kind of like I mentioned that if we undercut this low here, we can blast to the downside and it can happen quick. Well, the same thing can happen to the upside. We blast out of these zones, we can break out very quick. And we've all seen Tesla stock move up and down many, many dollars, and it can happen pretty quick. So that's what we are looking for the upside, is if we start to move up, this thing could really start to move higher once it breaks out of these zones that we watch for. We also kind of look at these zones as like a spring, all wound up, full of tension. And when it's ready to go, it moves fast, has a lot of energy built up. And the same thing to the downside. A lot of energy can take place on a breakout to the downside. So that is what we're looking for Tesla. And we could also kind of take this whole area here, which I have shown in other videos. You can kind of look at this whole zone here as one big consolidation, one big basing structure. And when we get a breakout, it could be very strong. And going back to a bearish scenario, and you can understand why if we undercut this low here, that gets us well out of this range, this big giant box, and this price could potentially drop very fast. So just keep that in mind and have an exit plan if you're not going to short this stock, just in case something like that does play. Now, it doesn't mean that will hold. We could get a fake out move, get everybody on the wrong side of the trade, and like I said, we can close above that low. Or what would be a good scenario is we undercut that low, we rally the rest of the day and close back above the 200-day. That would be a sight to see. We will have to wait and see what happens. So you can look at this whole area here as a giant basing structure, a pause, and potentially a much higher uptrend to come. Also look at this as that example of a giant spring coiled up, getting ready to release all of that energy, whether that's to the upside or to the downside. We should know soon enough. So that is kind of a couple scenarios that we're looking for Tesla. And it kind of understand that the way we look at this is a little bit more of a short-term approach. Of course, if you are a long-term, which can be dangerous words, buy and hold investor, then I would imagine you're accumulating Tesla stock at the 200-day as the big fund managers do. We trade a little bit different. We like to see confirmations, whether that's to the downside or to the upside, before getting into these positions, before they start to trend. So instead of having capital locked up in this whole area here, doing basically nothing, we will exit the position and wait until we see signs of a new trend starting to develop. So there's not a right approach or a wrong approach. It just depends what your objectives are and your goals and kind of what you see for the stock. So that's just the way we look at this. If you are a long-term trader and you're okay with tying up capital for this whole period here, then I would think you'd be accumulating down at this 200-day. The dangerous thing about doing that is you don't know how much lower or how much longer this thing will trade sideways or down. So this could be the high for a couple years or a couple months. So if you're okay with, tying up capital or not knowing how much lower this thing could potentially go, well then, that is something that you would have to figure out some trading rules around, or perhaps if it's something that pays a nice dividend, you're okay with the price fluctuating. But for Tesla, like I said, if we start to move to the upside, we will quickly be getting into a long position, because if we break out of this zone here, we could really, really get moving to the upside. With all the negative news going on in the markets, what they'll do is they'll get everyone bearish in the market, create a ton of fear, and maybe they'll do that scenario where they'll push the price down, they'll get everybody on the wrong side of the trade, and then that will be it. Fear will be at its max. Tesla dropping, the Nasdaq's dropping, markets dropping, war here, Russia, Ukraine, whatever the news narrative is, and then the market will start to rally while the news is still negative. And if you're not on the right side of the trade, you're going to miss out, and you're going to be looking at Tesla at much, much higher prices before you look to get into the trade, where down in these areas was the time to get in, because that's when the new trend was in its early stages and starting to develop. Now, we'll have to see if that takes place. It might not. We might be in a multi-month or a multi-year downtrend bear market, call it what you will, but we will see. So a couple takeaways is just keep your eye on the low of the 28th. If we start to get to that low, be careful, because if we undercut that low, we could really drop very fast. Now, maybe it'll just be an intraday drop. Who knows? But just keep your eyes on that price. And then vice versa. If we start to trade higher and start to get up to these highs here, this 940, 950, 960 area, this thing could be ready to go. So keep your eyes on the chart. We don't want to see the rest of the moving averages, the 50-day and 21-day, start to undercut the 200-day. That will take some time, but that would also not really be a good thing to see. We do have a trading group, and we post trading signals over on Patreon. Tesla is one of those trading tiers. If you're interested in something like that, then we will leave a link to that down in the video description. If you like to have exact entry and exit signals for trades, and that is what we post over there. So you can take all of the thought out of it. You just take the trade, put your stops in, and let the rules do what they are supposed to do. So if you're having a hard time, perhaps you're trying to trade Tesla, then you might want to check out that trading tier and follow some trading rules. If not, no worries. Just figured I would let you guys know if that's something you're interested in or something you have been looking for. I know back in the day, I used to trade using the Investors Business Daily trading rules. I was I believe it was called Market Watch subscriber, and I subscribed to IBD, and that was really nice in the early days having at least a setting of trading rules, a good checklist to check off before you would enter a position using the can slim method. I'm sure some of you might be familiar with that. But that really took some of the unknowns out of stocks, not just buying on a limb or buying because you like a certain company or whatnot. Having a criteria list that an asset has to meet before putting your capital to work in it. So that's basically what we do with our trading rules. We have different trading models that tell us when to get in or get out of positions, as well as when to short positions. So, like I said, I will leave that down in the video description if that's something you would like to check out. Thanks for taking time out of your day to watch this video. Let me know your thoughts down in the video comments on Tesla. Where do you think it's going? Are you trading stock or are you trading options? Let me know. I enjoy reading all the comments, and I'm interested in what other investors and traders are doing. You guys have a great day. Thanks for taking time out of your day to watch this video. Be careful out there. Markets are volatile, and Tesla, being a pretty large product, can do some damage to your trading accounts if you don't have some rules in place. So just be careful out there. All right, guys, have a great day. I'll catch you in the next video.